make these words into the numbers and then what they mean. So I think that was really helpful for a lot of people to see that it's not just sort of nonsense. It's actually a scientific, if I can use that word. It's a way. So welcome and great. And I suppose I want to just sort of kick off by saying, you of course follow the news, and obviously we weren't surprised that the President Trump had got acquitted. But was there anything that you took from what happened that was important?
Yeah, there was. And again, Simon, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you. And last week, how time flies, just last week with Charlie, and shout out to him. Love from me and Simon to you, Charlie, and we'll get you on an episode soon. So it's a very good question, Simon. So I noticed, because one of the things I do is I like to take a photograph of all the headlines of the newspapers. I don't read the newspapers, but I look at them for messages, for numbers.
Okay.
And I think it was yesterday, or it might have been Saturday, there was one that said Trump acquitted. It wasn't really on many of the English papers. I think it was the Telegraph, or it was one of the broadsheets.
It was.
And there was a photograph of him.
It was a picture of Trump, and it just said Trump acquitted, and that was it.
Exactly. What paper was that?
Telegraph.
It was the Telegraph, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did the numbers on the word Trump acquitted. Now, Trump comes to 88, as we mentioned before. Acquitted comes to 100. So when you add them together, it comes to 188.
Right. What does that mean?
Well, one of the values I've got for that is Jesus of Nazareth.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Exactly. Yeah. So, which is really, very interesting. I mean, Jesus is 74. It's London. It's President Trump's age. It's Messiah. It's Muhammad. Of is 21. Nazareth is 93, which comes to FLOTUS, comes to kingship. It comes to Olympic, so the Olympic Games. It also comes to my last name, Bushnell. But you add them all together and it comes to 188. Jesus of Nazareth, Trump acquitted. So I like that one. I thought, oh yeah, that's an interesting one.
More than interesting, Tom.
It is more than interesting. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, Simon. Talking along the same theme. So yesterday was Valentine's Day. And I did the numbers on Valentine's yesterday. And Valentine's Day, so Valentine's comes to 121. So 121 is a few things. It's Revelation. It's the Trump. It's Don Trump. And if you add the word day is 30. So if you do the two of them together, Valentine's Day, it comes to 151. And that comes to Jesus Christ. And it also comes to the Gesara reset. So there's a few values there, which again, I say interesting. You say it's more than interesting. But I thought I saw that. And also, I like to refer to films, popular culture ones, particularly like Back to the Future and Christopher Nolan's films. But in Back to the Future, they time traveling at 88 miles per hour, hence Trump, 88 miles per hour, but they have to generate 1.21 gigawatts of power. So 1.21. The word point comes to 74, which again is Jesus, which is London, which is Messiah, which is Muhammad, which is President Trump's age. It's amazing how it's all been set up. And the director, Robert Zemeckis, who directed the three films, his name comes to 169, which comes to The Great Awakening, which comes to Trump Tower, which comes to Tiffany Trump, it comes to Thomas Bushnell, one of my names, the Royal Crest. So there's a lot of things going on with that.
Tom.
Yes.
In order for this, it means that somebody understood the codes, but years ago was making things happen in different industries or different walks of life.
Yes.
Years ago, and letting them in, and they go into the psyche or they go into history, and then they release this decoding system, shall we say.
Yes.
if we accept that as true, what that means is this is a long plan. This is something that's been planned a long time. What do you think?
I concur and agree 100%, Simon. When I'm experiencing the numbers, and this last year of 2020 now into 2021, it's been a process of real enlightenment and discovery. And yes, it points back to many years ago, hundreds, thousands of years ago. I would say right to the beginning of when this started, this whole thing on Earth. Yeah. I believe President Trump was chosen to do what he's doing now. I believe he was chosen to be many big characters, biblical and non-biblical, throughout history. That's my own understanding of it. People might have their own thought, and that's fine. But my understanding is, yes, right from the year dot, if we could go to that, however long ago that was, yeah. I believe everything was put into place. The language was put into place. The numbers were put into place. The reality that we exist in now, the big key players on the board, i.e. President Trump and others. So I do believe that that's exactly the case. And when they seep into things like films or newspapers or other things, misspeaking, I do that plenty. We all do it. But there's a code behind the misspeak now in this great, the Great Awakening, this age of Aquarius, the Trump millennium, whatever you want to call it, the golden age, the 1,000 years of peace, it's right there. Oh, talking of another one as well is golden. So the word golden comes to 57, which comes to Tesla. It also comes to my dear grandparents' name, Wood, and you mentioned Sidney Wood by mistake last in one of the ones with Charlie. Yeah, one of those. So I like to see those. But also it comes to England. Scotland is 88, Trump. But when you do Golden Jubilee, so this whole thing with President Trump and the military and the White Hats, the great the financial reset, as Charlie talks about a lot. So golden comes to 57. Right. Jubilee comes to 64, which comes to Israel. It comes to Zion. Comes to American. And you add them together. Golden Jubilee again comes to 121, which is Valentine's, which is the Trump, which is Revelation 1.21, etc., etc. So, it's you've hit the nail on the head, Simon. It goes back away right to the beginning in my estimation.
All right. Yes. So, I mean, I accept that because I think that's exactly right. But the bad guys will also have the decoding capability.
Yes.
So it's almost as if the two sides are running side by side, and we know what the bad guys do. They put out predominantly films from Hollywood, not exclusively, but from Hollywood, which then foretell evil things. And I remember some 10 years ago, I was showing, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and how that was, on the bridge 9/11, and there've been other flaws that other people have identified.
Yes.
So they use their own system, but
yes.
This seems more Christ energy. This seems more pure than the system they use, but both sides are trying to influence the future.
Yes, exactly. It's interesting you bring up Terminator 2 because that's one of the. It also has a lot of Q, has a lot of Trump in it as well. Yeah. And I've noticed it with films like E.T. So you've got this scene with Elliot, and they're talking about pizza, and it's a U film, but he kind of, he uses some language that kind of makes you think of a few things from the dark side.
Okay.
But then his brother Mike in the film, Mike is actually Michael is 51, Jasara, Batman, but he's wearing a nice American football shirt with the number 17 on it throughout a big portion of the movie, and there's other pieces in there as well. So these films that were produced and made and put out with deliberate, like you say, dark hat stuff, I'm seeing more and more. There's also right between the lines and in the fab work of the whole film, there's lots of good energy, there's lots of good Q stuff, and as we're going through this time, this great awakening, those good things are really popping out now. They're really becoming very apparent. People are able to access the codes, as you say, and see them. But yeah, Terminator 2 is a there's a lot of good things in that film. There's a lot of good things in that film.
Do you think then that almost all these films either have got a bad guy and a good guy working to do this, or do you think that it's given to the bad guys, but they're influenced and they don't realize it, and they put in material that supports the good guys. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, so I think there may be a handful of people that can deliberately do it, and I would say President Trump is in that category. He knows all of this and uses it all the time in his language when he's talking to people and when he tweets, etc. But I've thought a lot about that, Simon. So my estimation is that people that created scripts and they put a few things in, there might be some deliberate points in films, good and bad. But I sense it's more of a subconscious level. It's a behind the scenes, it's a dimensional thing. And I think that some of those things have been put in, and I think a lot of the good things have been put in without people's understanding, without people's knowledge. But now that we're going through this awakening period, it's all, like I said, it's all popping up. It's like a 5-dimensional pop-up book. It's like playing Pokemon Go.
Tom, this isn't like I'm going to learn to be a plumber or I'm going to learn to be an electrician. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a serious question. I mean, did you literally just wake up one morning and think, wow, I've got the gift to do this? Or did it slowly dawn on you over a period of time?
Yeah, so what happened, Simon, was at the beginning of lockdown, I knew, well, prior to that, they were all giving us the warnings, it's going to happen. And then I was like, they shut Indian Wells, the tennis tournament, down in California, and I was due to go to the US, and I was going to pass through that and some other places. So I had to change my flights, and I was like, right, this is really going to happen. They're going to lock us down. And so for a couple of weeks, like everyone, I'm hearing how the world is changing, etc. And but then I started to research. It's just my natural inclination. I want to find out the nature of things.
Yes.
And I started to follow my sixth sense, my intuition. And the first thing I came across, I started listening to President Trump every night as well, and I had a calm sense. I was like, Trump's got this. I just knew he was in control, and he had this. Despite all the other confusion and everything else going on, we had the Don, and he was there, and I just intrinsically understood that. But then I came across Princess Diana's. I was looking at her funeral service, and the start time of that is 9:08 in the morning, which is a weird time to start anything.
Yeah. So
I looked at that, and then I realized, 9 + 8 comes to 17. Okay. Q, 17th letter. And I looked at her burial plot in Althorpe, and I looked at JFK Jr. Some people say it's JFK's, but I thought either JFK's or Jr.'s. It's clear like a round circle, like a mini roundabout with a path, with a Q, yes. And I was like, And then I found a little video clip of when Diana, a year or two before she passed or disappeared in 97, was meeting with JFK, and the press were all like, sorry, JFK Jr. The press were all excited. They could be the new, transatlantic global couple, and they also mentioned Trump Tower in that little clip. And I was like, there's three key characters here on the board, and I just started to look more. And around the same time, I found Q, and I started to look at the posts and the drops. And not too long after that, President Trump did a great little video clip in one of the press briefings, and he talked about the swabs, and he pulled out a Q-tip. He said, a Q-tip. And I was just like, that's just incredible. And I was already maybe onto Q for like maybe a month or so of it. And so I just started to figure out doing the numbers, and I just something kept prompting me just to work out the numbers of his tweets, his capitalized words in his tweets, my own name, my family's name, my friends, the countries. I just started to do it and build up a knowledge base. And then I realized, actually, this is really what he's doing. And I'd listen to his briefings every night, and I'd listen to certain time points when he would say certain things, and they just started to all interlink and marry up. And that's how it got going, Simon, and the word, interestingly enough, is download. So download comes to 88, which is Trump again. And so he was giving me this, just listening to his voice, the sound of his voice, the truth of his being, of who he is, of who he really is, was permeating through me, and I was being woken up to that again, and I realized who he was. So it's no coincidence I met Ivanka Trump in 2015. Of the millions of people in Manhattan I could have met, I bump into her. and going back to that as well, you asked how did it. So my very, very first taste of this, I've mentioned it before, but my cousin Paul, he passed in 2015, and his date of birth was January 18th, which is 118. And I had an experience in New York where I met a couple of different ladies on a couple of occasions with their friends and family out across the water by the Statue of Liberty and out to Staten Island, and they both had the same date of birth, which was 118. And that was my first kind of taste of the numbers, but I couldn't articulate what it was. I knew the reference of Christopher Nolan's film Interstellar,
yes,
which came out months before that at the end of 2014, and there was the whole 5-dimensional communication piece through the bookcase, etc. And I mentioned that to my brother and other friends and family, and they kind of got a sense of what I was talking about, but I was working out the statistical probability of how could this happen. Paul's just died, his birthday is 118. I meet this girl, she's 118. I meet this other girl, she's 118. And then another one back in England a month later, 118, her birthday as well. So that alerted it to me, but I wasn't sure. I didn't know what was going to happen with 2020, but as soon as it descended upon us, as soon as that piece of the game, the simulation, the reality of what we're in now, and this descended, that's when the numbers really started to click. But it did start with Princess Diana, okay. 908, 9 plus 8 is 17.
Right. And looking at the Q drops recently, those that are referring to something that's yet to come, what's worth bringing to the attention of the audience? What Q drop numbers have yet to play out, which you think are quite pivotal?
Again, that's a good question. I haven't checked Q for quite a while actually, Simon. So I see pieces. I kind of just follow what's coming to me in my own world and what I hear. Okay. So I do tap into it sometimes, but in terms of the actual drop numbers, that's not my speciality because I don't focus on it that often. I did in the early days, but then I kind of got this. I guess I got up to speed with what I do. This skill, this knowing. But you've hit another nail right on point. You said yet to come. So one of President Trump's favorite phrases is the best is yet to come.
Of course, yeah.
The first part of that phrase, the best is, comes to 107, which comes to Trump's. The word best is 46, which incidentally I always talk about, but I turned 46 today. I was 45th president yesterday, 46 today, which is Dove, but the word best is 46. But add them together, the best is comes to 107. Then the next phrase, yet to come, comes to 121, and that's the number that we started off with right at the beginning of our talk today.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
That's interesting because he doesn't really paraphrase it or shorten it. He actually uses every word, doesn't he?
He does.
As if it's it's an important that it's not missed out.
No, it's very important. And then another value for 121 is the fourth, i.e. a date. So fourth comes to 88, which is Trump, and the is 33. So the Trump or Don Trump or Revelation or 1.21 or Valentine's. But the fourth, hence perhaps the 4th of March, or perhaps maybe 4th of July, or another 4th. He was also the 4th child in his family. So the 4th, literally Trump is the 4th in many, many ways. The other thing about the 4th of March, when you add up the numbers on that, it comes to 185, which is Donald John Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is incredible.
People are going to be terribly disappointed if the 4th of March comes along and he's not quite back yet.
Yeah, they may well be, and who knows? Maybe it's the next year or not. I don't know. But
it won't be next year.
When we get to it will come out. Yeah. Sorry, Simon.
Fine. It won't be that long.
I don't think so.
4th of April. How would that key out?
4th of April.
Let's
have a look. So the 4th of April. The other thing about the 4th of March.
Sure.
And also the 4th of, actually, it might even be 8. Let me just check this. So, the 4th of April. Okay, so let's do that. So April's 56, which is light, which is 3, the number 3. It's also Nolan, Christopher Nolan. So April. So if we do the 4th of April. Very good, Simon. Very good. It comes to 198, which comes to President Trump.
Well, I didn't know that, but I just have my view of 4th of April. How fascinating. Now then, I have to ask you, my name, a number of people have actually written in and said, oh, it would be interesting to know what your name is. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, supposing it's something really bad. So do you want to share it with everybody?
Yes, I will do, for sure.
Go on then, let's hear it.
I meant to do it in our last one with Charlie. When it goes, everything starts flowing,
Well, I should tell everyone, and you'll confirm, that you haven't actually told me what it is, have you?
No, I haven't.
No,
I haven't. I thought I'd save it for now. So.
Okay, go on then.
So Simon comes to 70. Okay.
Right.
Your name Parks also comes to 70.
Oh, 270.
Yeah. So 270s. So that comes to 140. Now, I mentioned just a few moments ago, the word trumps, Trumps, comes to 107, which is currency, which is quantum, which is military, which is the word 20, the number 20, the word 20, Aquarius, Superman, all these 107s, yeah?
Yeah.
When you add the word the, 33, takes you to 140. So the trumps, or the quantum, or the military. But yeah, the trumps, I thought you'd like that, the trumps. So Simon Parks comes to the trumps, which is always a good one to be entangled with.
Mm.
And if you add your middle name, Bard, B-A-R-D, Bard, comes to 25, which is also the letter Y, it equals that. Comes to the name Jack. The Simon Bard Parks comes to 165. And there's 2 really powerful ones on the board for 165. One of them is Operation Warp Speed. And in my understanding, Operation Warp Speed is to do with healing people, but also to go as far as resurrecting people, because the word resurrection comes to 165 as well.
Yes, it wasn't just, literally that name was given as a cover for this vaccine-y thing, but I know from the military that they were working on a range of projects, like med beds and quantum and stuff like that.
Exactly. So the Operation Warp Speed does come to 165, which also comes to resurrection. It also, if I remember rightly, comes to Westminster, which is where I'm in the borough here in London. But the resurrection and Operation Warp Speed is they're 2 potent ones on the board.
Thank you. That's very helpful, and that's quite good, because we've responded to some people who said, oh, I'd like to know that, and maybe thought that I would keep it secret, but I don't know what I would have done if you'd said it was something horrible.
No, but that's the thing, Simon. So there are, because I get a few people ask it, but all numbers inherently are good and glorious. Some got hijacked and infiltrated, as we're seeing with everything in society, including numbers. Yeah. But now they're all being returned to good. And I just have a natural tendency to focus on the good of things. And so, but even if people have, a name that is associated with the dark character, usually that name is 100% fine anyway. Right. They've infiltrated. So never get hung up on it. But I can guarantee you there's always many, many good positive meanings with all of the numbers and all of the values, So it depends on what people focus on, take your pick.
That's really good. Is there anything that, really you need to bring to the audience? Is there any developments or anything that, will help them to if they're trying to follow, what you're teaching? And you are teaching in a way, Tom, because you're actually showing the numbers. Is there anything that you can impart to the audience?
Yes, there is. Thank you, Simon. So I did some numbers on connecting consciousness. and it ties in with where we are now as well. So, connecting comes to 104, which comes to Jerusalem. It also comes to the two places I was born. So I was born in a place called Hillingdon in the greater, area of London. That comes to 104, and the road that we lived on was Snowdon Avenue with a DON at the end, and Snowdon comes to 104 as well. So it's a nice personal marker that I noticed. So it's like I was born in Jerusalem and I lived on Jerusalem Avenue, but it comes in with your website. So connecting is 104, and consciousness comes to 175. 175 is consciousness. Now here I did put it up on my edition of our episode. I put a note on there. So afterwards, I did realise I incorrectly spoke last week for one of the values I gave, and it does happen. Cool. But it's also important for me to correct it. I always like to do, because I want it to be accurate. So one of the things I said was Arizona, and Arizona I said at the time was 85. Arizona is actually 84. Okay, so but the interesting thing about that, so Arizona plus which one was it we did? Phoenix, yes. So Phoenix. Okay, so you'll like this, Simon. So Arizona is actually 84, which also means the word million, or also means 40. It also means Moroni. I've done some pieces on that. But so Phoenix is 91, which is POTUS. Okay. Arizona is 84. You add them together, and that comes to 175, which comes to consciousness.
Huh. Oh,
yes.
That's
exactly.
Incredible.
It is incredible, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've seen lots and experienced lots, but that actually does take my breath away a bit, because that is not coincidence. I mean, I don't care. You could flip a coin 10 million times, you'd never get that, would you?
Amazing. No, you wouldn't. And it's amazing, because where your journey's going, and it's right there. And I was like, right, that's amazing. That's incredible. Some other things that have come up with that is you also mentioned Terminator 2.
Yes.
So one of the ways to do that is, so there's a part in the film where Arnold Schwarzenegger says to Sarah Connor, I should say Sarah comes to 47, which is atomic silver.
Oh.
Connor comes to 79, which is atomic gold.
Well, how interesting. So gold and silver.
Yeah, gold and silver. And that comes to 126, those two values. Her son, John Connor, John also comes to 47, which is atomic silver. And Connor is atomic gold. So both Sarah Connor and John Connor are silver and gold, atomic silver and atomic gold. So I think that's clever screenwriting myself. Yes. But maybe they were inspired, and maybe it just came through from the other side of the matrix and encouraged them to put that down.
I can well believe. But wasn't it based on a book, or am I wrong?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
If it's based on a book, then it's already happened, because the writer of the book
will take it from there.
But then it's always known that those sort of books would eventually be made into a film.
Yes. I'm not sure if it was, or it may well have been. I
don't know. I just don't know. But
I don't know.
But that's unequivocal. You can't argue with that. So that's interesting.
No.
Gold and silver. That's fascinating.
Yeah, gold and silver. And then you've got, so there's a clip there where Arnold Schwarzenegger, the good Terminator in Terminator 2, is talking to Sarah Connor, and they're talking about, he's giving basically a future history lesson of what is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And he says that on August 29th, they basically switch things on and they pull the plug. So there's a reference to that.
Skynet goes live.
Exactly, that's it. Skynet goes live. Yeah.
What he actually says is Skynet becomes self-aware, and then he gives the date.
That's it. You know it better than I do.
I just have a very good memory. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, you'll be good at all the numbers, Simon.
No, I wouldn't.
So, and then the other interesting thing about that clip is there's actually an RV in that scene. Okay. There's a recreational vehicle which is in that scene. But here here's some of the numbers that they talk about in terms of that. So August 29th. So August comes to 89. If you do 29th, so 29th would be 29 plus TH. 29 plus TH is 29 plus 28, which comes to 57, which again is Tesla.
Right.
So August 29th with the TH comes to 146, which some nice numbers there come to New Jerusalem and also comes to Ivanka Trump. And then when you add the word on, which is 29, it comes to 175, which is consciousness, which is Arizona, which is plus Phoenix. Phoenix, Arizona, 175, consciousness, 175, on August 29th, 175. So again, it's very on point that you mentioned the film that I was going to discuss a bit later. We haven't compared notes or said anything prior to it, Simon. So again, that's really powerful. And another person that I've mentioned earlier was the whole thing of Princess Diana and my connection with her on all of this.
Yes.
So her name, Diana Frances Spencer, yes, comes to 175.
Ah.
So when you add all of,
I had that number before, yeah.
So Diana Frances Spencer comes to 175. So consciousness comes to 175. Phoenix, Arizona comes to 175. On August 29th comes to 175, and Diana Frances Spencer comes to 175, which really is quite amazing, I think.
It is. You see, there must be a lot of people who started off being skeptical, but by the end of their own research, they've realized that it's far from a chance. There really is. And then because they get hooked into it, quite rightly so, because then they, it's like this thirst for knowledge, isn't it? Because we are being starved of real knowledge from the mainstream, and so people are digging in. And that's why I was thinking that what they could be doing is looking at the Q drops and trying to not slavishly follow it, but like what you've done is check it to your own life, to the experiences, then say, well, okay, that's coming from the Q drops, but what's coming to me in my everyday life? What is, what has been given me? And I think that's part of an empowerment, because it's making people not just look at these numbers coming out of Q, but looking at their life and the world around them and making them more aware of how things are happening. So really, in a way, what you're doing actually is empowering people, and I really love that.
Thank you, Simon. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you. And I get, it's amazing, as you'll know with your work, you get so many messages and emails from people thanking you for the great work you do. And
I don't get a lot thanking me. I get a lot of death threats.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But a lot of people are very angry that Trump didn't get elected, and seem to hold me responsible for it.
Well, I'm sure you're not responsible for that.
Well, I don't think I am. And the point is that we know that Trump is coming back.
Yes.
Without any doubt. And it'll be very interesting, when that happens, how the energies will swap and how they'll change. But we do, every Saturday I do, with my coordinators in the US, as we're prioritizing the US at the moment. And we may get 4 or 5 states together. So, at certain times I'll do that. And, many of the members actually thank us for the work we do, and that's nice. It's nice to have the recognition, but unfortunately there is a great deal of disturbance out there
in the force.
Really is. Very disturbed.
There is. There's a lot. There's the storm is coming. It's upon us, isn't it? It's actually, that brings me to something. One little thing that I discovered today, Simon, I may have known it a while ago, but I discovered it again today, so I'll say that it's discovering it today, was some of the markers for President Trump is New York. Obviously, that's where he's from, which is New York comes to 111.
Oh, right. Okay.
Londinium, the old London, comes to
Roman
111. If you do City of London, and I'm not talking about, financial centre that's strangleholded everything. I'm talking about the City of London from way back.
Right.
That comes to 185, which comes to Donald John Trump as well. So you've got some nice parallels there with that. You've also got World Trade Center. So in 2001, then when that was taken down, and the other thing to just bear in mind is that it was 2 buildings, but they always referred to them as one. So it gives you an idea of twins, you know. But that comes to 185 as well, which was Donald John Trump. So they were onto him energetically and consciously way back then. But the new one that is up is World Trade Center, but it's one World Trade Center, and the word one is 34, which is DJT, and also Neo from the Matrix. We might have touched upon that before. But going back to 111, so you've got Londinium, you've got New York, you've also got today's date, which is February.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so February comes to 96, add 15 comes to 111, also Parthenon comes to 111, and also the word perfection comes to 111, which is a nice one. And I know a lot of people, when they get kind of early parts of the numbers, they notice the 11's quite a bit. So that's an interesting one. And actually for today's date, you can take it up a notch. If you do February the 15th and spell the words, the is 33, February is 96, which interesting enough is GameStop as well. Right. But when you add the word 15th comes to 93, which is Nazareth, which is Olympic, Kingship. It's my last name, Bushnell. It's Justin. It's Charlie's son, Justin. But when you add it all together, it's floats as well. It comes to 222. So within that date, you have a nice 111. So February plus 15. But you can also take it to a 222. And in some things we've been told to follow the twos, and particularly in the Dirty Dancing film, it's, you know, Valentine's Day was yesterday, but I've become a real recent avid fan of the film Dirty Dancing because it was one that got re-released during summer, and I noted that all the old films that got re-released were deliberate Q films put out, and there's plenty of markers in Dirty Dancing.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's plenty of good numbers in those films.
Well, that should give people some confidence, because what it's saying is that somebody somewhere is pulling the strings in terms of what films are coming out, and it doesn't mean that the dark side are controlling everything, does it?
No, it doesn't. One of the ones that was, so for example, there's been three times films were re-released during 2020. So you had the ones in the summer, then you had the brief, there was another one that came up, and then is it 2 or 3 lockdowns? I can't remember. It's either 2 or 3 times when they brought out a new slate of films.
Right, so 2 major ones in Britain. Yeah.
2 major ones, yeah. So all the Back to the Future films were re-released in the summer, along with all of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. All the Harry Potters were re-released. Lord of the Rings were re-released. Terminator 1 and 2 were re-released. Matrix was re-released. And then in the second part later, you know, kind of in the late autumn, winter months, November, December, one of the films that was still there, that had been brought back again after the November lockdown, was Back to the Future. So Back to the Future was there, and it's like, someone somewhere wants us to watch this movie. And so I again watched it. So I've seen that one a number of times in the last few months. Another one that they brought out on a second occasion was Rocky. So Rocky was an important one as well, and there's a lot of codes in regards to that. Rocky comes to 72, which comes to first, which comes to money, comes to channel, the whole thing of America first. But all those films have got codes in them. But it's interesting, and the way to tell is like, okay, they're making an effort to put it out in the cinema. We can only watch a handful of movies. Oh, well, these are the ones that they want us to watch. Empire Strikes Back was one that came out again. And you've got a lot of things in that. But yeah, and Terminator's always been a favourite, Terminator 2, and there's some really good codes in there, you know, despite the other stuff that you mentioned that was in there also as well. Yeah.
Well, Tom, well, listen, it's been really lovely to talk to you, and you know, I find it fascinating because it's not my strength, it's not my skill, that side of it. So, you know, I'm quite in awe of your ability to do that, and I'm sure most people are. Listen, it's been great. Let's hope we can do this again. And you know, it's nice to meet someone who also has complete confidence that things are going to work out as they should do.
Yeah, they will. They will and are, Simon. And again, thank you. It's always, well, we've done it twice now, and both of the times I've really loved it and enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next time with you, and hopefully it's soon. And yeah, thank you. And anyone on my channel, Sight Club, come and follow Simon and Connecting Consciousness and vice versa. And Simon does a lot of great work, and I look forward to more and more discussions with you, Simon. It's been an honour. Thank you.
Fine. Well, God bless, and thanks ever so much.
Take care, Simon. Good night.